All right. Welcome to episode 9 of season 2 of the Jumping the Rail podcast. This is Mark Redmond coming to you from Champaign, Illinois, and joined remotely as usual by my tag team partner from Bismarck, Gary Basilio. Gary, what's up, buddy?
Oh, just another wonderful day in the life of me.
Oh, yeah. You don't really do bad days, do you?
Oh, I do a lot of bad days.
I guess sarcasm doesn't transmit over the internet.
Oh, no.
Well, if it makes you feel better, Gary, I had a whole list of things to talk about today, and then wouldn't you know it, everybody's favorite creepy old man had to go and make news again today.
What happened? I
One,
didn't say it.
one Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And first off, on Vice, his documentary is airing tonight at 8 o'clock our time, so we'll try to be done so all the viewers can get to that if they want to. So number one, we have more ladies coming out of the woodwork claiming malfeasance and mistreatment on dear old Vince there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised, but one of them, I forget her name, and I wouldn't say her name anyway, anonymity, all that. I guess she's asking for 11 plus million in damages. So
Well, she found out what everybody else was getting. So
yeah, I guess so. But yeah, so they're saying that case might actually go to court. So I don't know. I don't know enough of the details to go any further. I'm just going by what I read today. And then, not to be outdone, Vince himself went on and said that he's ready to come back. He's, he said maybe he was hasty in stepping down. He wants to come back, but all I can say is I hope not.
I don't see how it's possible.
Me either, because I mean there's a whole board of directors to answer to, and as long as these people keep coming out and saying Vince can't keep his hands to himself, then they're gonna keep him on the back burner.
Well, I mean, it's just if anybody was smart, they would realize, hey, their ratings have went up, their houses
Yeah,
have went up, everything's gone up since he left.
the show itself is better.
The show itself is better. Triple H has hired a lot more people back. People Vince didn't see anything in, so it would be the same stuff. Like Vince would be back for like maybe I give it a week before he'd just taken everything back over again. So it would hasty.
Yeah,
He didn't have a choice.
no. Yeah, Vince has, even if he did come back, he's got a bad habit of fixing what isn't broken way more often than not. And yeah, I'd say if we could put a shock collar on him to keep him away from the venues, even away from Titan Towers, we'd be better off. I mean, the guy's pushing 80. He should just enjoy his retirement, self-imposed or not. But
So I'm reading here that he thinks it would have blown over if he had stayed.
I saw that. Yeah, this will blow over. It's nothing. Just sweep it under the rug. It sounds like everybody's favorite former president. Oh, look at that. Yet, my beloved spouse. Vince had better not come back and ruin things. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
and she continues. Literally, no one wants him back. This is very true. I don't know of anybody that wants Vince back on the tiller there, to use the old voting euphemism. But
Well, the problem they're going to run into is he still owns most of the stock. Still owns the lion's share of the stock, so he could make things interesting that way. But they said that was going to be legally very weird anyway, with him stepping down as CEO. So, I mean, I guess he could come in and say he was going to try to force a sale or something, but I don't think he can force his way back in. And then that's just going to tear his family apart, because I think right now they've kind of given him the idea he's been kind of put out the pasture erroneously when it was for the best interest of everybody, and they don't really want to tell old man Vince that.
Yeah, definitely not erroneously.
No, it was for everybody's own good.
Yeah.
I didn't know how long he could stay retired myself, but
Yeah, he's
yeah, it's
Vince. To use what the kids say, he's kind of. I think he's prone to FOMO. You know, the old fear of missing out thing, and
yeah. Well, Mania's coming up, so that's his baby. So you know he's gonna want to be back for Mania and Wrestle and Royal Rumble, but he still thinks he's got it. He doesn't. He hasn't had it for a long time.
no, he hasn't had it for about 10 years, I would say,
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
been a
being
while.
generous.
Yeah,
But I've got to wonder if, and like I said, his documentary's out tonight at 8. So it seems a little convenient to me that about 5 hours before showtime, all this stuff starts coming out of the woodwork. Is he is he a I don't want to say genius because I mean I don't think he is, but is this a desperate ploy to get ratings for his documentary? Is it just trying to get back into the stuff? I don't know.
yeah. No, it's just people around him were smart enough to make him realize for a little bit to leave, and now he's just not smart enough to stay away. He's gonna get his feelings hurt.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. When a workaholic retires, then it gets a little sketchy, you know.
Yeah,
And if you can say anything else about Vince McMahon, he is most definitely a workaholic.
yeah.
Also, a work
Sacrifice.
alcoholic.
Yeah, sacrifice everything to the god of professional wrestling.
Yep. He's it's just it blows my mind how different he is from his old man. Just like his dad was like a throwback promoter from the old days, you know. And I'm not even talking about not competing with the other territories or anything, but he did not want to be in any kind of spotlight. Never showed up on television. Like whenever they would have their shows at the Garden, Vince was maybe standing in the grill position, but he wasn't making a make drawn focus or anything like that. I don't think he had any desire to ever be an on screen character or anything like that. And then you go to Vince, and Vince is friggin' Barnum and Bailey and the Ringling Brothers and all these magicians and circus performers all rolled into one,
Yeah,
wanting to want to be the grand ringmaster of everything, you know. And this is crazy. And he's the like, you can make a case for Bischoff being similar because you know he really made a meal out of being on TV. But other than that, other than Bischoff and maybe Russo, there none other promoters have ever really wanted to do that. Tony Khan, he'll pop up like once every couple months on TV.
yeah. He never even showed up with the whole MJF angle or anything, or the any of the punk angles, or when he was actually being talked about. So I think that's best for business, as the kids say.
Huh, yeah, and yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think Vince needs to just stay away. Let Hunter do his job. Hunter's doing a hell of a job, and we saw that on Saturday. I don't know if you watched the Takeover NXT Deadline on Saturday night.
No, I forgot all about it, to be honest.
Well, it was a good show. It's I didn't watch it live. I was busy on Saturday, so I watched it yesterday. And the Iron Survivor Challenge thing was a lot less convoluted than I thought it was going to be, which was the main takeaway I had. And they picked the right people to win. Roxy won. Roxanne Perez, she's the number one contender now. And Waller, the Australian kid, is the Iron Survivor for the men's side, so he's going to challenge Braun Breaker down the road. And I don't know, I could see Waller winning, being the champ, because he's such like an unlikable little prick, you know.
Yeah, I mean he's a good worker and he's definitely good on the mic. He's got a character and a half. It's just
Yeah,
I don't know what you do with Breaker once he goes to the main roster because they haven't done anything with Strowman. I know there's supposedly a little heat on Strowman,
I've heard that.
but if they're not doing anything with Braun, that Braun. I
Yeah,
don't know what they're going to do with the other Braun.
I think young Braun would probably. I think he'd go to Raw if it was me.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not going to be in the title picture. He'll probably maybe in the U.S. title,
Hmm. I
but
can
I
see
don't know.
maybe if Rollins moves on to the world title picture, maybe he comes up and challenges Theory.
So I know they're supposed to bring up. Why can't I think of his name? The To the Moon guy.
Oh, Grimes.
Yeah, Cameron Grimes.
Yeah, he's been on TV for a while.
They were supposed to bring him up, and then I just don't know where you put him. I mean, that's another dude, extremely talented all the
Oh
way
yeah.
around. Great character, can cut a great promo, got a good
Mhm.
look,
Yeah.
definitely can work.
Yeah.
But where are you? I I'm guessing that Ricochet is going to dethrone um, Gunther Walter,
That was funny.
but and so I think that's Triple H's way of kind of showing that he's willing to take chances on so-called smaller guys.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's going to be. I think Ricochet's going to finally take that belt,
Yeah.
but
I don't know if Ricochet takes the belt. I think Gunther might hang on to it at least through the Rumble. But Triple H is definitely a Ricochet fan. He's not afraid to work with the smaller guys, as evidenced by Finn Balor's in a big spot on Raw these days. And the I don't know if you heard the rumor about Gunther, Gary. A little
no,
alliteration there. Apparently, Brock requested him for WrestleMania.
really,
Yeah, Lesnar against Gunther. If
that's definitely not a guy that Brock can just do whatever he wants with.
No, and I'm just giddy at the idea of Gunther just landing one of those chops on Brock just to see what happens.
When you when that hand hits that dinner table of a chest.
Either Gunther's hand's going to break or Brock's going to get a little unhappy with him. But it's definitely a match I want to see. I don't think Gunther will be Intercontinental Champion by the time that match rolls around. I just, I don't know. It could. I keep thinking Sheamus to be the one to beat him, but they seem like they moved on from Sheamus. He's doing the stuff with Roman now, or even tag team stuff with Butch. But I don't know. It's
I would guess it would my if he's wanting to work with Gunther, easiest way to do that is in the Rumble. You have Lesnar come in doing Lesnar stuff in the Rumble, which is always dumb, where he's just tossing people out right and left, and then I'd have Gunther eliminate him.
yeah,
And then,
maybe with a little assist from his boys.
yeah, with the help of Imperium, but he still eliminates him.
Yeah.
And Gunther doesn't have to win the Rumble then, he just has heat.
No, if he eliminates Brock, he's made. He's good. He's
Well, then you could also have Brock come, like, do Brock stuff, which is heel stuff, but come back in and throw Gunther out or do something that costs him the match one way or the other. So
right.
then that's set up for Mania right there. You don't have to have much more build up than that.
No, I wouldn't say so. Uh, Not a lot going on. I'm hearing with Mania now. I'm hearing less talk about The Rock coming in, which I think they're just kind of playing it close to the vest. I still think he's coming, but it's almost like they're wanting people to forget about The Rock until they bring him out.
Yeah, I don't know. I just keep wondering who they're finally going to have. I mean, I can kind of see I don't know what they're going to be doing on Friday because they're supposed to have a thing for Sammy. I don't think they're going to turn on Sammy,
It seems too early.
but what I think might happen is that I think Kevin Owens is going to take one of the belts off him, and I think Sami Zayn's going to help him. I think they're building this up, this rift between them, how he's involved with the family. I think Zayn's going to help Owens take the title, one of the titles off of him. off of Roman. He's gonna. So I think that's how it's gonna work.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. I do think that pulling the trigger on the split up with Sammy is a little too early still, just because of how recent Survivor Series was and the whole blow off of that angle. But eventually, yeah, I do think Sammy. If the Rock is off the table, I think Sammy is one of the guys to challenge Roman at Mania. I think it just
Yeah.
the angle writes itself, And there's a lot of other people they're saying when Cody comes back, it'll be him. They're saying Rock, they're saying Sammy, they're saying Kevin, they're saying even people still saying Drew. But
Well, if they don't get Rock at Mania for some reason, because you only have so much time left with him, because as good a shape he's in, I mean, he's closing in on 60 now.
he's
So
now.
so
So, yeah.
do it now if you can do it at all. But if you don't do that, you could always have a triple threat, like first pin wins one belt, second pin wins the next belt, and you have Cody and Owens, and you have Cody win the first fall, and then Owens win the second fall with help of Zayn.
I'd do you one better. I'd say have Cody and Sam or Owens and Sammy and Roman. Have Owens win one with like it's like Sammy accidentally finger quotes like kicks Roman in the face, knocks him out, and
Yeah.
then have Sammy just beat Roman outright for the other one. But I don't know. We're not the bookers, and we don't get paid enough to do it. But it's fun to think about.
No, we don't get paid anything. We're deficit time by watching all this stuff.
Ah,
I could have written a great American novel if it wasn't for professional wrestling.
what the hell was that?
It's my
Was that
dog.
Reggie?
Yep.
Oh, good old Reggie. It just kind of came out of nowhere like an RKO.
Something's outside.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they do like things outside, don't they?
Yeah, my dad probably walked out the door or something. So
Ah, gotcha. So yeah, kind of get back on the on track here with Deadline NXT. We also got the New Day winning the NXT Tag Team titles from
what did
Pretty
he?
Deadly.
That was interesting.
Yeah, I think it's twofold myself. I think number one, they need something for the New Day to do. I mean, they've kind of run their course with the Usos for now, so I don't think they're going to get close to the tag titles anytime soon. And number two, they got all these young tag teams down in NXT that I think they need somebody to kind of coach them up a little bit, work with them. So it just makes sense that those would be the guys they would send down there.
Yeah. Well, it's like when Ziggler went down there and won the title off of Breaker.
Mm-hmm.
It was just to show them, hey, this is how you professionally wrestle. This is what we're wanting. Watch this guy for a few weeks,
Right.
see what he does, and then do that.
Yeah. Pretty much. You don't have to shake your ass like Kofi does, but it's the work. It's the if anybody can teach you how to work a crowd and have good matches, it's Kofi Kingston. So I'm all for it. I think it's a good call. Trying to think what else. Wasn't a whole lot. It was kind of a short show because the two Iron Survivor matches were like 25 minutes each, so that kind of cuts into the 2 hours. So I mean, everything was good on the show, but that was the only real noteworthy things like really sticking out top of my head. Now, on the other hand, earlier in the day, they had Ring of Honor had Final Battle. They did it at the early afternoon show, and I'm next week we're doing our next episode is going to be our year in review, Gary, where we talk about the best of what happened in 2022. And I thought I had my match of the year figured out, but there were two matches that happened this week that really kind of made me stop and think. One of them happened on Impact. It was Josh Alexander and Mike Bailey, who they went about an hour for the world title.
Yeah, that was a long match.
Alexander likes those long matches because Impact's the only place that'll let him do it. But then the other one was the double dog collar at Final Battle, Briscoes and FTR. It was the last match of the feud. That That's number 3. And I didn't watch the pay per view, but I watched a fan posted a video of the match on YouTube like the next day. And holy crap, they just beat the piss out of each other with those dog collars. And
Yeah, there were some pretty dumb bumps that happened.
there
Yeah.
were, but there was also some good psychology in there too, though. Specifically, Dax Harwood, probably the best seller in the match, I would say. Uh, but yeah, he took they were smart. They didn't have him tap out or get pinned. They had him pass out, so it keeps them looking strong, you know. But now the ROH is starting to run shows on Honor Club, which is their streaming service. Now the Briscoes are 13-time tag champions there, and it seems like it's just they're going to be off and running with them, like back in they had their run with Impact and GCW this year, but now it seems like ROH is ready to kind of hit the ground running a little bit more. And with that said, final battle, every champion but Samoa Joe lost. So I think most of the AEW guys holding their belts are kind of going back to AEW, and they're kind of starting to build the Ring of Honor roster separate from AEW now, which I was hoping that they would do. But just to recap, Claudio beat Jericho, made him tap out to the thing.
I saw the end of that match, and that had to be something Jericho thought of.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because nobody else had ever tapped out, because Claudio just kept swinging them.
Yeah.
30 times.
I think LaGreca counted 34 times from what he said. But yeah, I remember a long time ago, Chuck Taylor said, and this is a quote, Chuck Taylor from Best Friends said, yeah, Claudio can be a real dick about swinging people.
Yeah.
And he kind of showed that on Saturday. But yeah, so Claudio's got the belt back. I thought it was cool. I was like going into the show before I knew about them bringing back their TV. I thought Jericho was going to keep the belt up because he's been doing a hell of a job, like building that belt up again the last few months. But if it's anybody, Claudio's the guy, you know, because he's the one that's been really working, busting his ass trying to get back up to that spot. So I'm glad that he won it. Yuta won the peer title back from Daniel Garcia. And it kind of makes me think that, I mean, obviously there's no more Blackpool Combat Club, you know, Regal's gone. So it seems like Danielson and Moxley are going to be the AEW guys, and then Claudio and Yuta are going to probably focus more on Ring of Honor, if I had to guess.
I think they're kind of still going to be together, but not what they were. So
right.
I don't know. I don't know what you do with. I don't know what they're doing with FTR. FTR seems to be losing all their titles. They haven't lost the New Japan ones yet, but it went from 3 triple champs to single champs, and then they lost in a non-screw job way to the Acclaim. So I'm not exactly sure what they're doing.
I may have missed something. Are they still AAA champs?
I didn't see the belt, but I could be wrong.
I don't know if they just wore the. I think AAA has a beef with Ring of Honor, to where they can't like show their belts or like, you know. I think it's why I think Andrade missed one of their shows. I think Andrade wasn't on Forbidden Door because of that. So I think there might be a beef with Tony. So they might still have those belts, but yeah, you're right. They dropped the Ring of Honor titles. It seems I'm guessing they're going to drop the IWGP at Wrestle Kingdom, just because whoever wins the World Tag League is going to have a guaranteed shot, and 9 times out of 10 they wind up winning the titles. So that's my guess. AAA, I don't honestly know enough about their tag team picture to know who would be the ones to beat it, FTR, for those. But yeah, it just kind of remains to be seen there, you know. And on top of those, Athena, Ember Moon beat Mercedes Martinez, which didn't stick. Well, it kind of surprised me. I thought Mercedes would be the one sticking with Ring of Honor, and Athena would mainly be AEW. But you know, she works a little stiff from what I hear, so maybe Ring of Honor is a good spot for her.
Yeah. Every once in a while, you got to put it in there.
Easy.
But yeah, she's a. I always thought she was good. She can cut a promo. She's got a good character. It's just I didn't seem to be doing anything with her. Not Roxy. Ruby. Ruby's back. So like, you kind of have this. If she's back, she's going to be feuding with X. And so what's Athena going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem like anybody is beating Jade anytime soon. So
no, not likely.
you then Paige and Britt are feuding, and then I think you're probably going to have a feud with Britt and
Jamie.
Yeah, with who?
Jamie Hayter, though.
Yeah. So.
And then Tony Storm is in there somewhere.
Yeah, whenever she's back from whatever's wrong with her, if there is anything, unless they're just keeping her off TV for a while.
Right. They might be saving her for if Thunder Rosa comes back.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a story there that they can work with. But yeah, so then the other title change on the show was the Embassy beat Dalton Castle and his boys for the trios title. It's kind of like an afterthought of a match. It was all right from what I heard. But it's not one that it wasn't one of the big headlines of the show.
Gives Brian Cage a belt.
Yeah, and then gives Prince Nana something to brag about to get his heat, because he's good at that. He's good at getting the heat. So I've always liked the Embassy. I mainly like the original Embassy from not original, but from 05. When they had Alex Shelley and Jimmy Rave and Abyss and all those guys. But yeah, I'm glad Prince Nana is back in the fold, because, like I said, he was probably my favorite manager in Ring of Honor for a long time. And yeah, so like I said, a really fun weekend for anybody that watched both shows back to back on Saturday. I salute you. I probably would have done the same thing, but I wasn't home. And yeah, so just an overall awesome weekend of wrestling. Damn good SmackDown Friday night. Again, I watched that on mute. I was at the bar, but they had it on the TV. So, but yeah, so going into, it's weird. There's not a pay-per-view in December for the first time in a long time for WWE. So they got a lot of room to work with before the Rumble. So hopefully that means they can kind of show their work and, really, like, it feels me have the big whiteboard and, really put some thought into what they're going to do with the Rumble.
They're just going to have Vince come in at number 30.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it would be classic Vince.
Don't put it past him. Don't put it past him. It would be something dumb he would do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how you can think that you can come back. Like, you're done.
Oh,
you're done.
Like,
the board of directors is. I mean, anybody's going to look at that situation and be like, yeah, no, we're doing fine without you. In fact, you have more allegations now. Which, hey, if my conspiracy theory is true about Steph and Triple H and Khan, they probably heard rumblings, or Vince told them, hey, I want to come back, and then they're like, well, let's make sure we find all the women.
Yeah, they said Vince told his inner circle, which I have to assume includes Nick Khan. Fill up my Danhausen mug real quick here. So there you go.
Told him what? That he was wanting to come back, or?
Yeah, all the stuff that he said. He said he wanted to come back. He should have waited, but stepped down because it would all blow over. All that stuff is I would imagine he told Pritchard.
Yeah.
I mean, Pritchard's his right hand man, and I'm not knocking Bruce because Bruce is also doing a hell of a job with Hunter. Like he's one of the few Vince guys that didn't get the axe when Triple H took over.
Yeah, I can't imagine Triple H just being like, "Yeah, sure, come back. I got nothing going on."
Yeah, I'm just living my dream right now, running the show and getting ratings and making the fans happy. Fuck that.
Yes.
That's the face I was waiting for, Gary. Just the shake your head in derision.
So tough.
I've missed Grumpy Gary.
Just rich people thinking they can just do whatever they want anytime they want because they always have. That's all it is. Nobody stopped them before, so
No.
I think this time is his time to be stopped. So.
Yeah. But the other main point that I have is Vince is 86, not 86.
80 something.
80 something. I forget how old he is.
It's
But he's old enough to think, you know what? No. It's a young man's game, and you are not a young man,
Yeah, well, Triple H isn't even a young man.
Triple H, he's 50s,
Yeah.
But 50 is the new 30 these days. I don't know if you know that, Gary.
I don't feel that.
See, I have a different
I'm not even 50 yet.
Well, neither am I, but I say you're only as old as you feel, and I have the back, knees, and feet of an 84-year-old man.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah. My brother brought his kids down for Thanksgiving, and I was tired just watching them run around and do what they do. I don't have that kind of energy anymore.
Yeah. Kids be exhausting, man.
Yeah. We went to our buddy Marco, original producer of the show. He had the annual family Christmas party for all of our group of friends, and Narge was there, brought his boys, and after a while, all three of them, they're 10, 5, and 3, I want to say. Stacy would know better than I would. But just free-for-all wrestling extravaganza in the middle of the living room. And Murray, the 5-year-old, he works stiff. He was making me cringe with chops, and they don't know how to work safely yet. But
yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah, but they went for a good 45 minutes, and I was tired out watching them.
Yeah, I remember being in high school and wrestling in my friend's yard or in their room and getting just legit DDT'd on the ground or the floor or rock bottomed or get put in a camel clutch at the same time as a Boston Crab, like legit both ways, and almost passed out.
Did you hear the bones creaking?
I was like, I can get out of one of the. Oh, nope, I'm about to pass out.
When I was 5 years old, my mom wasn't home from work yet, and I hope telling this story doesn't get my dad in trouble. But it was just me and my brother at home. He's 2 years older than me, and my dad was out in the garage, I think, doing something with his car, or I don't know. So my brother and I used to always wrestle around in the house, and it was always harmless. Nobody ever got hurt or anything, except for one other time, but I'll get into that later. But he decided he was going to give me the slingshot, grab the 2 legs and throw you in the turnbuckle, as it were. Well, the turnbuckle was a wall.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to protect myself, so I basically broke the impact with my face. And 2 front teeth gone. I was not happy. I'm told I cried. I don't remember very much. But then my brother plays he plays doctor. He takes me to the bathroom, cleans me up and everything, and tells me, don't say anything. You basically keep my mouth shut so they can't see. So he sits me on the couch and has me literally do this. I was like, how was that? And he said, you okay? My mom came home and she figured out I didn't have to do anything. He's like, what did you do? So we told her, and then we didn't get in trouble. My dad got in trouble because he was not in the house. And so yeah, that's one of the perils of bedroom wrestling.
Yeah.
Then there was the other time my brother gave me a leg drop, but he didn't know you have to bend the knee when you go over the windpipe. So he kind of mabled me.
Tried to kill his little brother. It's okay.
I'm sure he thought I had it coming, but in the long run, no harm done.
You probably had it coming anyway.
I probably did. I was a scamp back then. Hey Gary, do you remember a few episodes ago we talked about all of the crimes committed on wrestling shows that go unpunished, except
Yeah.
for like there was another one a couple weeks ago. I don't know how much you watch of Impact. Apparently, Eric Young was murdered on TV.
Is that what they're saying?
That was the angle they shot. Diener stabbed him and killed him, and that's
I
how they
didn't
got him
see
off.
that. I saw them beating him up, and he was bloody, but he was really bloody the night before. I just figured he got busted open again, but I didn't see the part where they stabbed him.
That was it was like a cinematic like vignette kind of thing in
Oh,
another. It wasn't in the ring, but
oh,
yeah. So that's what they do now. When they did it with the bunny when she was leaving, they had her get killed off, and then they
yeah,
did it with
like slit her throat or something.
something like that. Yeah, and then Taya Valkyrie got arrested for murder when she was leaving the first time. It's
Yeah,
Impact is doing a lot of good things, specifically in the ring, like with the wrestling. But I mean, come on, you don't have to kill people. What happens when Eric Young's contract goes up and he comes back to Impact? They'll say, "Oh, I'm fine."
well,
You know.
then you'll have James Vandenberg bring him back from the dead
Oh, there you go.
because he can do that.
Oh, but I mean, there are more creative ways to get a guy off TV than to kill them. And then Diener had a match like the next week,
Yeah,
even though there's video evidence of him committing murder.
I'm wondering if Eric Young's going to actually work or if he's just going to be a producer.
I don't know. I mean, Nikki Cross is doing a lot of teases about Sanity coming back. So,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know.
man, Eric Young is good,
He's damn good.
and he can still work. And he came back a lot sooner from that knee than anybody probably should have. And he can definitely cut a promo. Like he's great character guy.
Yeah.
You just never give him a chance. So if they bring back Sanity, that would be interesting.
Yeah, but I wonder how far they would go with that. Would they bring back the whole group? Because Nikki's
Damo,
married to Killian Dane, Dabo, the big
yeah,
guy. So he makes sense to come back. And then Alexander Wolf, I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know if he's wrestling in Europe or what. But
I don't know. Like big, I've never been a fan of Damo. I don't. He's not bad, but I don't know. Nothing sticks out to me. You could do a lot with anybody. You could just add them to the group.
yeah. I mean, I remember the original group. It was Sawyer Fulton, Madman Fulton from Impact was originally in the group before he got cut.
Well,
And
I haven't seen him in Impact in a while, so I don't know if he's even still there or not.
I think he's still there. I just don't think they have anything for him right now because he's not with Ace anymore.
He doesn't do anything.
No,
He
he's just
just
a big
kind of is
enforcer.
there. Yeah, I don't know if he's just not very good in the ring or.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, he was always like I think they did a good job of hiding whatever negatives he had. But yeah, he wasn't he's never been a real standout performer in my opinion. I mean, all due respect to the guy, but
Even
yeah,
on indie shows, you'd see him with Ace Austin. He was never just by himself. So
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Now Ace is in the Bullet Club and doing quite well. Him and Chris Bay made the finals of the Super Junior Tag League in Japan. So I don't know. I don't think that match has happened yet, the finals, so I'm not sure if they won the cup yet or not. But he's a pretty good fit for Bullet Club with his character and his attitude and everything.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I'm trying to think who else is in the Bullet Club right now. That I was thinking Juice Robinson. I thought he would be a bad call, but he's actually not bad with them. He kind of changed up his character, so he's doing the thing. He wrestled shit. Who was it?
He's in AEW now, right?
Yeah, he wrestled Joe at the the final battle for the TV title. So I think he might be a Ring of Honor guy, like going forward.
Well, him and Tony Storm are together, so
Yeah,
kind of makes sense.
it does make sense. But yeah, he's a big deal. He's a Joliet guy. He worked IWA Mid South for a little bit when he first got in.
IWA, IWA,
But,
IWA.
but I like Juice because when he got cut by WWE after the whole CJ Parker run that kind of went nowhere, like the tree hugging hippie kind of guy, he actually went to the New Japan dojo and trained there for like a year and kind of rebuilt himself from the ground up, and then just had a probably saved his career because he had a hell of a run there.
Yeah, some guys just fit in better in Japan.
Yeah,
Like Jay White, I don't see him being a major star here. But he's a huge star there.
oh yeah, Jay's one of my favorites. He number one, yeah, his character work in Japan is phenomenal. I loved his run in Impact this year.
Yeah.
When he was there, I didn't think they did enough with him in AEW. They brought him in to defend the title at Forbidden Door, but other than that, he was just window dressing for the Undisputed Elite when he was there. But they could have. I imagine if Cole hadn't got hurt, they could have done something with Cole and White in some degree.
Yeah, hard telling when Cole's ever going to come back. So.
Yeah, I'm just saying it doesn't look great. He had a pretty damn hard concussion at that show. But hopefully it's number one. Hopefully he's all right. But then hopefully he can come back because I do enjoy Adam Cole, baby. So we haven't discussed the elephant in the room regarding his lordship, Gary.
Ugh.
So old William Regal, it's made to look like a chump on TV last week or 2 weeks ago. Last week they show a pre-taped promo him with Shivani, basically writing himself off the TV, and now the rumors are true. He is coming back to WWE as hang on, and let me double check here.
Vice president of something?
Yeah, it's a vice president. I don't know what capacity exactly.
Well, Triple H has a lot of respect and trust in him, so
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's just another like hiring right there where that tells me Vince isn't ever coming back.
Yeah.
Triple H and Stephanie are setting up their chess pieces. Like Vince isn't going to come in and they're not going to let him come back. No. Whatever what he wants. It's going to be a big messy thing if he tries to force his way back in.
Yeah. There's something interesting though that I read today about Regal and Vince. I guess he did an interview in October where he said that Vince actually terminated his non-compete clause early so he could go to AEW.
Yeah, but he terminated him too. So
yeah, but he let him go to work.
Yeah.
So he says, and there's a quote here from Regal. Mr. McMahon was very good to me, to the point of, I will say this because whatever he's going through, he was excellent to me. Kind of an odd sentence, but British. I had a talent contract as well as an employee contract, and it didn't run out until the end of April because I played William Regal. I started for AEW on the 7th of March. I didn't call anybody else. I sent a message straight to the boss. Hey, boss, I got this thing with Brian, and he loves Brian as well. Absolutely, you go, and still paid me until the end of my talent contract. I was the only person who ever got paid by both companies at the same time. So, I mean, so I got that my fancy reading glasses because I can't see shit anymore. But yeah, so I mean, he's got plenty of good things to say about Vince despite everything, which tells me the character of the guy. You know, he could have easily taken the low road there. But I think Regal, and number one, the other thing, Regal, I think wanted to come back and work with his kid because his kid's in NXT right now, Charlie Dempsey.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while, so I don't know if
And
he's
still
just
there.
training or.
Yeah, I've liked what I've seen of him so far. You know, he reminds me a lot of his old man, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they need to develop the character a little bit more. But in ring, I think he's off to a really good start. And yeah, like I said, for what Pat Patterson was for Vince back in the day, I think that's what Regal is for Triple H going forward. Because Regal was kind of a mentor for Hunter back in WCW.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's how far back you go back farther than Triple H does with Shawn Michaels, to put it in perspective. And then you just can't discount Regal's eye for talent. You know, I mean, he was always the guy that would go to, like when they were starting NXT UK, he like called all of those guys to do that tournament like directly because he knew all of them, and it just worked out.
I mean, it's the same thing he's done with NXT, where he's putting Michaels and Road Dogg and a few other people in positions of power, because he doesn't have to, unlike Vince, who wanted to micromanage everything.
Yep.
Had to micromanage everything. Couldn't leave anything alone. Triple H, I think, is learned, maybe from the heart attack, maybe just from experience, that you can't do that and be effective.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's put Michaels and Road Dogg and people he trusts, and Regal's just another piece to that, where it's, hey, I have a lot of stuff I have to do. I'm writing these shows. I'm trying to get all this back online. I can't do everything, but I need somebody I can put in a position and then just walk away, because I know everything I ask them to do, they're just going to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And Regal is going to be one of those guys. You just give him the ball, and he's just going to run with it, and then hand it back to you when he's done.
Yeah.
So it's a good pickup. It's a good hire. I mean, all the people he's bringing back are people who have shown loyalty to him in the past, or whatever spark he wanted to see. So that's people he's pushing. That's the storylines that are growing, and it's because he doesn't have to worry about that. Like, he knows Kevin Owens isn't going to drop the ball.
No.
Because he's just good.
Yeah.
And people really are on board with Owens right now. He's getting huge reactions. And when you don't have to overwrite somebody, or tell somebody what to do in the ring, or worry how green they look, that's just icing on the cake. It's so, I mean, what he's doing is just genius, because it's not too much. He's not trying to squeeze every drop of blood out of a stone and try to make it, just be magical. He's just taking what he has, giving it to people that know what they're doing, and let them do their
job. Yeah. And I think you're right. I think the health scare had a lot to do with that, because number one, I'm sure the doctors told him to kind of take it a little bit easy and don't get carried away with it. But also, just Hunter's a smart guy. He knows what the grind is. He knows what the grind did to his father-in-law. So
yeah.
So I think that had a lot to do with it also. But as far as like the people he's counting on, look what they're doing on SmackDown. They got LA Knight in a feud with Bray Wyatt right now. And out of all the people that everybody was speculating when Bray came back, I guarantee LA Knight was not on their list for who he was going to work with.
Wasn't on mine, but
no, surprised me. But they're having a hell of a time. They're cutting some good promos back and forth, and I'm sure there's a match coming eventually. But I wonder if Bray's still shaking off some of the ring rust before they put him back in there.
Could be.
Because I mean, it was well over a year that he wasn't anywhere near a wrestling ring. So I don't know. But yeah, just looking at Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Austin Theory to an extent. These were all the guys that really came up under Triple H when they got into the system, and these are the guys that he's putting stock into. I don't know if that was. Oh, I think that was my wife coughing. Oh, yeah. I don't have a fancy studio. I just have my living room, so everything picks up on this microphone. Oh, that wasn't her. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that was my wife. That was
Oh, it's your wife.
I don't have a fancy studio.
No.
I have a basically 2-room house. So.
That's all right. Hey, we're paying our dues, right?
Yeah.
One of these days we'll get in touch with Dustin and figure out the studio. But until then, we're fine doing the remote thing here. So I think getting back to Regal, I think in the credit is due department, we got to say something about Tony Khan too, because Tony didn't have to let Regal out of his contract. I think he still had another year on it. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, and Regal called him, and also, Tony's mother just had a stroke, so he's had a lot on his plate too. And Regal called him and said he wanted out of his deal to go back and work with his kid and all this stuff. And Tony let him go. He didn't try to stop him or anything. So, I say kudos to him. So it could have very easily turned into a bidding war or a pissing contest between both companies, but they just, you got to pick your battles, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Because if he'd stuck around, Regal would have been a big deal in AEW behind the scenes more than anything. Basically, what he's doing with Hunter, he should have been doing with Tony from the start.
Yeah, it makes me wonder what guys like Mark Henry and Big Show are doing behind the scenes. I know Mark Henry's doing a lot of community outreach work for AEW and stuff.
Mm-hmm. He's
I
also
think Big Show still does commentary and stuff, right? Or
I'm not sure. I don't watch a lot of the YouTube. He was doing Dark Elevation, I think, but I haven't watched that in forever. But Mark Henry's doing he's the chief from Where the World is Carmen San Diego on Rampage. He's the face in the box.
Yeah.
So
says his line and.
Yep. I forget who it is. It's either Orange Cassidy or Danhausen always tries to steal his line and he has to yell at him. Which I bet it's Danhausen. He's a rascal. But yeah, so yeah, you gotta wonder, because they got a plethora, to use a fun word, of experienced guys in the back that, if you believe what you read on the internet, which I don't know why you would, they nobody listens to. Some of the young guys don't listen to the veterans, and I wonder if I originally wondered if that was one of the reasons Regal wanted to go, because nobody was listening to him. But if you listen, Brian Pillman actually debunked that. Pillman Jr. said that, like, most of the roster would sit around the ring and talk to him before shows and everything and get feedback. So that kind of debunked that theory for me. So yeah, it is what it is. I'm frankly glad he comes back, because I think he and Triple H work well together. And yeah, we'll see what happens. It starts. His deal starts in January of 23, and I'm told the only condition was that he cannot appear on television for a year, which I think he's probably. I would imagine he's fine with. What are you looking
at? Oh, I was looking at something. Sorry.
Glad I got your attention.
No, I heard you. I was just checking something out real quick.
I got you. You always got to know what's going on in the house, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Gary, let's move on. I heard something that tickled me today. We all know that people compare Matt Riddle to Rob Van Dam, right? For one reason or another. The main reason he likes the chronic, as the kids say.
Yeah.
But so first off, he popped a drug test over the week. I think it was over the weekend. Maybe it was last week. I forget. He tested positive for cocaine and Molly, apparently, which is.
Well, if you read any of those text messages. kind of knew that he was on cocaine and Molly because he said he was on cocaine and Molly in the text messages.
But what's weird is his personality doesn't scream cocaine to me. He just seems like he likes the stuff that makes you a little loopy, you know.
It might be why he likes it so much, is it gives him a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. So like, all due respect to Rob Van Dam, he got suspended a time or two for the chronic, you know, for the marijuana. And now in another chapter of the I'm kind of like RVD file, apparently, and not judging, you know, more power to him. Matt Riddle is dating a porn star. I forget her name, but it's kind of right in tune with the RVD life plan, you know.
Well, Riddle's dated a lot.
Well, yeah.
Got in a lot of trouble for dating all of them somehow. So
Yeah, he's been known to hunt some strange every now and then, and that kind of got him into doghouse. But so yeah, it's kind of like when Nick Cage married Lisa Marie Presley because he's such a big fan of Elvis.
yeah.
Which was really, really weird. I mean, you and I love Elvis, but that's just weird.
Yeah. Well, Nick's a little odd.
A little bit. There's a.
Named his son after Superman. After all, so
I'm sorry.
named his son after Superman.
Like actual Superman or Clark Kent?
I believe his name is Kal-El.
Oh, Nicholas.
I believe.
He's an odd bird. So. Oh boy. They say never meet your heroes. Sometimes never read about your heroes because they just come off like they're nuts.
Yeah, it's Kal-El Coppola Cage.
Well, the Coppola makes sense, but
yeah.
So Kal-El, one word?
Kal-L.
Okay, so
it's Superman's full name as his first name.
I'm just waiting for him to change his own name to Jor-El Cage.
That would be a pleasant surprise someday in my fold inbox.
Oh, good. All right, I think we've made enough small talk. We got some business to get to, Gary, but before we get into the top 10 and the Hall of Fame, all that stuff, I have a cheap plug to make if you'll indulge me. We got some new shirts on ProWrestlingTees.com/JTRPod. I put it up on the Facebook page earlier, but I'll put it here. Right there. Look at that. It's some nice graphics, don't you think? So yeah, so we got the regular logo shirt here. We talk wrestling. These three all came in the last like 2 days, and I like this one. Wrestling makes me happy. Come on, just simple. Get a smiley face on there. Who doesn't like that? House fights draw money, which is kind of my mantra, and then the old wrestling math: red equals green. Blood equals money. So all those are available on the website. Go check it out. Everything you purchase, it helps us keep the lights on, keep the mics going, and we would appreciate anything that you feel the inclination to go for. So there you go. ProWrestlingTees.com/JTRPod if you're interested on there. And all right, so we're gonna go into. Let me find my graphics here because I'm directing and hosting at the same time. JTR Hall of Fame, and this is our third, I think, give or take. And no, I'm sorry, fourth inductee. So the first 20 or so of these are going to be no-brainers because there's so many that we can go with. I'm going with probably one of my favorites. I love the Texas guys from way back, Gary. So this week we are inducting, boom, Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty Rhodes, the Bull of the Woods in public, if you will. Yeah. I mean, what's not to love about Dusty, Gary? I mean, he could talk. Not a chiseled Adonis, which I think we can relate to, but he could do what he had to in the ring. He could talk butts into seats, as to borrow from Tony Schiavone. And also, man, just as a booker, he did everything, and it was just great.
He was, well, I mean, considering how he started his career of not training at all,
Yeah,
saying the Funks trained him, and they didn't,
I think Murdoch did the same thing.
and nobody found out until he was booked on a show with Dory, and they were like, "Hey, one of your students is here. Must be nice to see him again." He's like, "I have no idea what you're talking."
Yeah, I think the story goes Dusty was playing for the Patriots, and I think he got cut or something, and he would just wind up going to a wrestling show up in Boston and just said, "Hey, yeah, I trained with the Funks and I want a shot." And I think he won a championship in his first match, if I remember hearing right. So yeah, he always had a little bit of that snake oil salesman in him to get his foot in the door. But yeah, 3-time world champion. Everybody talks crap about the polka dots, Gary. I want to get your take. Was it a rib? Was it not?
I don't know. I don't think Vince did it to like kill his push. It was more to see if I imagine Dusty said something like he could get over anything. And Vince is like, "All right, get this over."
Right.
And it didn't help. But I think there was some. I think it was kind of the same thing that Vince would do with the guys that would come in from like WCW. He went out of his way to hire them, and he knew they already had a name, but then he would also go out of his way to bury them because they weren't his guy. And like he did it with Jericho for what, a year or more before like Jericho finally started getting some traction back. Came in as hot as anybody ever come in.
Yeah, Jericho had a little bit of heat when he came in. So,
but there was a lot of those guys that came in, like even like Big Show. Like when he came in, like he looked great. He had the surgeries and stuff they wanted him to get, like the liposuction, and still did nothing with him. And I think that, yeah, one of the only guys they did. I don't know if he did that because he got burnt with Flair. I'm wondering if that had something to do with it, because Flair came in, he gave Flair titles, had him win Royal Rumbles, do all these things, and then Flair just took off on him.
Well, there's no killing Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Ric Flair
I wonder if being a narcissist as Vince is, like he got burnt that one time, and after that he's like, "Oh, I'm never gonna. If I don't make these guys, then when they come in, they're gonna have to earn it all over again." Because even Goldberg, you had to earn everything all over again. So he really didn't get much of a push until he came back at like 50 years old. He's got more of a push in the last like 2 years than he ever did.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to forget. He was only there for a year when he first showed up in 2003.
Yeah.
Basically from the night after Mania 19 to Mania 20. That was his run. And they gave him the world title, but they basically only gave him like 2 feuds. They gave him Triple H and Jericho. And, well, Lesnar. But we try to forget about that match.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the shits.
Quite possibly the worst match that's ever happened.
Could be.
Really bad.
The fans didn't help.
Yeah.
But there's something I saw, and I want to get your take on. I want to make sure I read this right, Gary. Somebody posted an idea because you heard that Dustin Rhodes announced that 2023 is going to be his last year as a full-time wrestler.
Yeah.
So somebody put this on AEW Dynamite's Facebook page here. I think it's just a fan page, but make sure I can read this here. I'm going to read this directly from here. If he only has a year left on his career, All Elite Wrestling should let him go over for a short NWA run and rip the title away from Tyrus. Let him hold a world title just once before he retires. Let him hold the gold that his brother and father held. Imagine the pop for him returning to AEW holding the title in somewhere like Texas. I don't hate that idea.
No, and if you're Billy Corgan, you shouldn't either.
No, if you're Tony Khan, you shouldn't. But
I don't know how Billy Corgan makes any money doing what he's doing.
I think it's just I don't want to say vanity project, but he makes his money playing music.
Yeah.
But I think he just does this for love of the game, doing the NWA stuff. So this thing continues. Dustin deserves to, at the very least, be given a program to take a shot at it. His legacy alone is strong enough justification, and what a moment it would be to have him be the one to elevate that title again and give it some prestige after Tyrus. It's kind of a shot at Tyrus.
Well, Tyrus is horrible.
I wasn't going to say it. I wouldn't. He wouldn't have to hold it long, but he should hold it at least once. I agree with that. The man is a wrestling treasure. NWA isn't in a great spot right now and could really use a strong story to reset their course. Plus, just imagine the emotional heft of his promos during this Dustin's hard times, baby. Not wrong.
No, not wrong.
And they could easily have Dustin win the belt and have Cardona beat him for it, because that belt needs to go back on Cardona, who is in for a rough weekend, by the way. He's got a death match with Bully Ray at the ECW Arena on Saturday. I guess it's some sort of ECW reunion show, and Cardona's telling everybody he's an ECW original.
Oh yeah.
He's a WWECW original, but I guess Bully has taken some umbrage to that.
Apparently, Bully's feeling pretty good right now. He's out there working.
He is doing the NWA stuff. He's got a pretty cool program going with Josh Alexander right now on Impact. But I don't think he'll beat Josh for the title, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did.
Yeah, somebody's got to.
But. Yeah, and Bully's awesome. I'm a big fan. Not just because I pissed him off on Twitter a year ago.
Well, you can put your name on a long list.
Hey, he never blocked me, so I got that going for me. So,
yeah, Dusty.
Thank you.
He had a great mind for the business, but he always. Some people gave him crap for it, but honestly, he was such a big star that he would book himself on top, and people would get mad. But there's no reason to be mad. Like, he knew that he was the draw, and he was. It was his charisma. He wasn't burning the world down with his work rate, but it was charisma and his ability to cut a promo.
Yeah.
And he just drew. I was explaining to my wife the other day, because we were watching Tales from the Territory, about how it used to be if you were at the top of the card, you actually got paid more money because you were drawing money.
You had no guaranteed contracts.
You had no guaranteed contracts. You just drew what the gate was. And so, yeah, I mean, that would be like Ric Flair running a promotion and not putting himself at top back in the day. Of course he was going to be a draw.
Yeah.
Because he's Ric Flair. He wasn't going to run something. And Dusty was the same way. Wherever Dusty went, fans followed. I mean, he was just this charismatic ball of energy, and it's kind of how it worked.
Yeah.
And he always, his booking was simple and to the point, and it wasn't. But there was, what was it? Like, they knew how to sell. They knew how to get an angle over, and he couldn't do a crossbody to save his life.
What are you kidding? He was like a gazelle, baby.
A wounded, half-dead gazelle.
I'm gonna kind of piggyback what you said. I mean, yeah, he booked himself in the main events and all that, but especially like in Crockett, a lot of times he was putting guys over. I mean, you look at the run with Blanchard and Ric Flair. They were, and Barry Windham, Luger.
Yeah.
He was putting these guys over huge, and he'd get a win every now and then, and hold a title for like maybe a month. He never held any of those belts for very long
Well, he
before he
did.
went back. He put the belt back on Flair, and
I
then
think
if they thought he was winning the match, they'd do the Dusty finish, and he wouldn't be the champion. He'd just get that pop,
I think he personifies something that wrestling is sorely missing, and kind of the same thing that a Tommy Dreamer had. Like Tommy could cut a promo. He could tug on your heartstrings. He was always the underdog. He wasn't a small dude by any means.
No,
He just got beat up, and Dusty was that guy. He was always the son of a plumber. He was always for the working man. He always came out, worked hard, dropped elbows, did his thing. But Tommy and Dusty, and there's a few other people, like Undertaker at the end of his career, they didn't need a title to get somebody else and themselves over.
that's kind of what Cena's doing these days when he comes back.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Yeah. And Dusty, I think, personified that really early on. Like Flair kind of always needed a title. Because he was...
the title needed Flair.
Yeah. Dusty didn't need that to be over.
No.
Dusty didn't need a title around his waist to tell everybody who he was. Because he would just tell you who he was.
Yeah.
And you would believe him because he was Dusty Rhodes. Yeah. And he could cut a promo on anything. The Hard Times promo is still like on repeat on some people's YouTube every day.
I had it saved on my phone.
And it's just it's almost a piece of art.
Yeah.
Because it's so good and it's so poignant and it gets to the point. And Dreamer, like it reminds me of like Dreamer versus Raven. Like he won like once.
Yeah, just that last match was the only one he won.
And it felt like an emotional release. It wasn't a win. It was just like every fan was like, finally, that chair shot meant so much more than it just being a chair shot. It wasn't just a wicked chair. It was everything everybody was feeling. And I wish Tommy had the belt more than once, like actually having the belt? Yes. I think he deserved to have it more than once for that short amount of time.
Especially the 18 minutes that he had it or something.
Yeah, I think that was a short change. I don't think he needed it all the time. I think he needed one decent run with it. But Dusty was always the guy that was getting people over, even if he was winning.
Yeah.
And people lose that now. Like Lesnar coming back, Lesnar doesn't need a belt. He's Brock Lesnar. You know what Brock Lesnar does. You put him in a program. He doesn't need a title. That's just ego.
Yeah.
Like Ronda Rousey shouldn't have belts. She should just be running roughshod. She should be in programs with people. One, because she can't work. It's a widely known hush-hush secret. And she's just making other people look bad. She's going to get people hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But she's still a name, and she can still get people over.
Yeah.
She doesn't need to be in the title picture. Yeah. John Cena, he like you said, he comes back and he loves the business.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely loves the business. And knows, hey, I'm not going to be around enough to have another belt. So he just doesn't care. But he's going to put people over while he's here. Roman Reigns could never have a title ever again. And you could use him to put people over and put himself over. Mm-hmm. You have program after program after program with him and somebody else. Make him an attraction. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Yeah. But Dusty, I think, started that where it was, because it used to be back in the day, like your top guy always had your belt. They always had to win it and lose it, win it, lose it. Like he moved around a lot more than a lot of those top guys did.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was in Florida, he was in Texas, he was in Mid-South. He did a lot of moving.
Yeah,
and
short run in New York, working with Billy Graham.
I don't think he ever had a title in WCW.
No,
even the early days. So, but he was always there. He was always over.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think he should be. I think not should be. He is. He's a great template to work off of.
Mm-hmm.
And see the other guys who worked like him, how far they got over and what they could do without having a title. And it's just, I don't. I think wrestling is now too centered around your titles
Mm-hmm.
and not enough around just stories. And because people don't know how to get themselves over without doing 14,000 spots in a match. That's how they get their cheers. Like if he can't go out, like Ricky Starks, he could be a Dusty Rhodes type, a Tommy Dreamer type. I think he's got the background, the story, the abilities. He cut a great promo this last week.
How good was that?
It was so good. And it reminded me a lot of like a Dusty Rhodes promo. Like, you can do whatever you want to me, just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because I'm not here for that. I'm here for this.
Right.
You could take a Ricky Starks and you could make him your Tommy Dreamer, your Dusty Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
And
another guy too, Kingston, could very well do that.
Eddie Kingston would be a great. Eddie doesn't need a belt. People are like, put the belt on Eddie. No, Eddie doesn't need a belt. He needs a good feud. He needs a program.
Right.
He needs somebody to be mad at. I mean, that's not hard.
No. It's
not the most difficult thing in the world. I mean, at this point, you could probably just spin around and throw a dart. If Eddie Kingston somehow is watching this, I love you.
Oh, man. He's one of my favorites. And I've met Eddie a couple times. Great guy. He's always nice to me.
Great promo. He can work.
Yeah.
He like, you can tell even the stuff that looks stiff isn't. I've heard from reputable sources that his spinning back fist is probably in the top 5 moves you actually want to take.
Yeah.
Because it looks good and it's not going to kill you.
So it's not like Hanson's Lariat?
No, it's the opposite of Hanson's Lariat, which would kill you. I don't know how it didn't.
The first time I saw King in the ring was also IWA, Ted Petty Invitational 07. Night 2, he wrestled. Well, night 1, he got eliminated from the tournament. Night 2, he had a last man standing match with Chris Hero. And this was, and him and Hero they went around Chikara, IWA, CZW, PW, all over the country with this feud for a good 2 or 3 years. And this was the big blow off match for the IWA part of the feud. And just looked like they were beating the shit out of it. They did guardrail bumps, which I hate because those guardrails do not have any give whatsoever. So that's when people get hurt. But Kingston got the win on that, and the crowd was all for it. They love Kingston and IWA, and and then you were talking about Raven and Dreamer as a feud. I'll put Kingston and Hero up there with them any day of the week, just for the matches that they had, and I don't know. This is just a little rant on my part, just on how much I'm a fan of Kingston and Hero. Those are probably my favorite guys on the indies.
Well, you look at a guy like in the same mold as the Dusty Rhodes, the DDP. DDP was WCW's biggest face for the whole NWO, made the whole where they were hot.
Yeah, the only guy that didn't join.
And he eventually won the title, but it wasn't until down the line.
Right.
And he was a heel by the point he won the title. But he was still over.
Yeah.
Because of his character work.
Yeah. And big assist from Randy Savage also.
Yeah.
That
Savage saw that in him.
Yeah.
And was willing to work with him. Savage didn't work with anybody he didn't want to work with.
Yeah. And Savage was willing to take his finish.
Yeah. So, yeah, Dusty, all-time great, but I have always looked at it that way, that he looked at the business differently than other people did. He could see things in people and how to draw it out of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's lost now, or heading towards lost.
Right. There's still a few that can do it, but it's not as important a part of like the training and the developing the talent anymore, which is troubling.
Well, I mean, you see it. Here's old man yelling at clouds. But you see it in baseball, you see it in football, you see it in all the other sports too. Like the younger generation, they have better training, they have better like gym habits, they have better eating habits, so their bodies are much better. They're in much better peak physical condition, and so they just get to these spots where their athleticism does most of the work for them, because they've trained in these hyper aggressive ways.
Mm-hmm.
But like when you look at baseball, I don't know how many situations every year where a bunt would push a run across, and they just don't do it anymore. Or just opposite field hitting,
right,
where they could just slap the ball. Ball's pitched on the outside, the guy rolls over on it, and they're like, "Oh, well, that was right into the shift." No, that was because he always does that. He's a professional baseball player. Why has he not learned how to hit to the opposite field? Right. Everybody used to be able to hit oppo.
Yeah. Even
Ted Williams could hit oppo. He just chose not to.
Right. He was stubborn. He's like, "Oh,
he was just stubborn. Yeah. It wasn't that he couldn't. He just didn't want to.
Yeah.
Like football players, same way.
Mm-hmm.
All basketball players, you've heard guys talk about how I don't want to play defense because it tires me out for offense. And it's just crazy because I don't know if we're still alive. Maybe still here?
I'm still here. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so I think that's what wrestling is now. It's fallen into that same category where these guys go to these schools and then they do the super kicks, they do all the other things, and people chant for them and they cheer for them, but they don't give them anything to love them. And wrestling, out of every sport, is a sport where it's not just being over, it's being loved. It's being adored by the fans. Stone Cold wasn't just over. He was loved by the fans. People didn't line up for hours to see him because they're like, "Oh, Stone Cold's pretty cool." No, they loved Stone Cold Steve Austin. And that was a guy who could work. Steve Austin was a mechanic, man. Like, the dude could work. And he stopped doing all this stuff because, hey, he didn't have to do it anymore because he had a character. He connected with people. He was on the pulse of what they wanted, and he did that.
Yeah.
And Dusty was always that way. He was always connected to the people. People loved Dusty Rhodes. They didn't just say, "Oh, hey, Dusty's going to be there. Oh, that'll be neat to see Dusty." It was fanaticism to see Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah. Dusty, I put in that category with an Andre the Giant, just of the greatest wrestling attractions of all time. I think those are A and 1A.
Yeah,
I would say. And Brock is getting close to that status also. Like for this generation, he's, like you said, he's more of an attraction than anything. But yeah, there's a lot to digest there, Gary. And also, just kind of the piggyback what you were saying about baseball, nobody steals bases anymore. And I've like for the last 5 years, I've gone on Twitter, and every year I'll make the same offer of $100 to the first major league player to steal 100 bases in a season. Yep. And actually, I say first, the next. I mean, it happened before, obviously, with Ricky Henderson, Vince Coleman, all those guys. But nobody, like, somebody will steal 30 bases and, oh, he's having a career year and steals. Like, that was Ricky could do that in 2 months.
Yeah.
But I had to just get that off my chest, so I'll move on. So yeah, so congratulations to Dusty Rhodes in the great beyond for being our latest inductee into the Hall of Fame here. We never have a plaque or anything to send to these people, but or their families, whatever the case may be. But right, we'll just give them their flowers, as it were. So before we got about another half hour or so, Gary. So why don't we get into our top 10 Tuesday here with my fancy graphics in this week's topic? And this is I had some fun with this one, Gary. Uh, top 10 greatest bad disguises in wrestling, and I think you'll know where I'm going with this. Somebody gets suspended or fired or whatever, they come back as a different character, but it's oh so obvious who is under the mask or whatever. So this was actually a little tricky. I had to scrape a little bit to come up with my 10 favorites. I had a couple that, well, I had one that didn't make the list, but very easily could have. But we'll start off with probably the silliest one here, Gary, and that is number 10, Juan Cena.
Yeah.
John Cena got fired from the Nexus, and then this was just for house shows. I think it was in Mexico, but he was doing the house show loop under a mask as Juan Cena, even though he was technically fired from the company. And just brilliant. It's great. Again, ridiculous, but I'm all for it. The fact he got a mask to match his shirt is just great.
Yeah.
I just wish I would have been there for the promos. See if you actually could do it in Spanish. Number 9, this was just a one-off. 99 or no, it's 2000. My mistake. When Edge and Christian masqueraded as Los Conquistadors to win back the WWE Tag Team titles from the Hardy Boys.
Allegedly.
Technically, the Hardys did the same thing. They were under the hoods first.
Yeah.
To get a title shot, and then Edge and Christian put the mask on to sneak in a rematch and win the titles back.
That's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite all-time gags that keeps going. Anytime you mention those conquistadors to Edge or Christian, they say, "Well, when you were under those masks," and there's like, where allegedly under those masks, they still won't ever fully admit that they were Los Conquistadors.
That's awesome. But they really, man, they made a meal out of it, though. And I don't know if you ever saw the pay-per-view they did that on. But after they won, they went back to backstage where the Conquistadors were celebrating, and I guess a couple other guys put the costumes on, and then Edge and Christian were celebrating with them in the locker room. Yeah. So it's marvelous, even though you can see the blonde hair under the mask during the match. But yeah, so like I said, that was just the one time. Number 8. This is kind of an obscure one, Gary, and it's a rehash from Florida, but I've got the WCW version because it was a little more obvious who it was to me. Brian Pillman as the Yellow Dog in 1991. As the old Pillman lost the loser leaves town match to Barry Windham, and then here he is. We got the. It's ironic because Wyndham was Yellow Dog in Florida in the early 80s. But they gave Pillman the gimmick for a little run before he came back. And I'm sure the girls were disappointed because, the ladies loved Pillman back then. He was a real heartthrob, as it were. But anything Pillman did was gold to me because I was always a fan. I see you, Gary. Are you bragging with your Cardinals hat that you got Wilson Contreras, and you're just showing me the logo?
No, I was trying to see if Barry Windham if he had passed away or not, because I know he's in the hospital.
The last I heard, he was out of the ICU, so I think things were looking up for Barry. So, get well wishes to him, definitely. I think they do have a GoFundMe going for him for medical expenses. I don't have the link handy, but hopefully he can get what he needs and get back on his feet. Let's see, number 7. Can't go wrong with this guy, Gary. Chainsaw Charlie, Terry Funk.
Yeah, he wasn't even really under a hood. He
No,
was
he was under a pantyhose.
under a stocking.
But just it took them weeks to even acknowledge it was Terry Funk, didn't they?
Yeah, they always called him. I don't know why you get Terry Funk and then you're like, let's call him Chainsaw Charlie.
Were they trying to give him a Cactus Jack type gimmick? Terry Funk doesn't need that. He's a gimmick in and of himself.
Yeah, he's Terry Funk. Like, just make him Terry Funk. Like,
Cactus
he's always
Jack and Terry Funk is an awesome enough team.
Yeah.
But so he had his little run with the chainsaw. Then I think he was still Chainsaw Charlie when they beat the Outlaws of Mania, but he didn't have the mask on anymore. He was basically just Terry Funk under a different name.
Yeah.
But Funker goes for all the people. Like, he's probably my top 3 favorite wrestlers of all time. I put him up there.
Funker was really good.
Yes, very good. He's still kicking,
Yep.
Doesn't look great. He's showing his age, but he's 80, 78 years old, I think. But we'll move on here. This is another ridiculous one. And I might get a little grief as we get further down the list because I have this on here. The James Gang, which was Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA under a mask when they were trying to get a shot at the Midnight Express, but they wouldn't give America's team a title shot. So they show up with masks on, and I don't know which one's Dusty in this picture, Gary.
Oh, I don't know. You couldn't really. You could, it's flip a coin because body types are so similar.
Oh, and not for nothing, should we recreate this picture in the insert here with the fur coats?
If you can find fur coats,
might have to be faux fur. I can't afford fur. But so basically the James Boys defeated the Midnight Express on TV, and then classic Cornette just crowing about how it was actually America's team all along, and then for weeks trying to get proof. It's just good. It's just good television. But you put Dusty and Cornette together, it's always going to be good, especially when you got Baby Doll. I don't know how Jimmy said what he said about Baby Doll and didn't get knocked out backstage sometimes, because he was not kind to her.
Yeah.
All right, number 5, Gary. When we're moving along here, Stagger Lee, the Junkyard Dog for Mid-South Wrestling. Same deal. DiBiase beats him in a loser leaves town match, and then here he is. He comes in, looks exactly the same, just he has a t-shirt and a mask on. It didn't change, and as usual, like all these guys, didn't change his moves. Still did the headbutt, still did the thump, all that stuff.
It's under a hood.
Yeah. But the crowd was in for it. And then they would also do the thing where sometimes he would be there, like not wrestling, but he'd like do interviews with Stagger Lee next to him. And I forget who they said was under the mask. Somebody said it was Coco Beware, but I don't think it was him. I think he was a little bigger than Coco. But yeah, so that went on for a little bit until I think it was either 60 or 90 days he was supposed to be gone for. And that was just so he could, I think he had some injuries, but yeah, then when he came back and he beat DiBiase for the North American title and just went back to us, because JYD was the biggest guy in Mid-South. He was their Hogan for a long time.
Yeah, he was.
Gary, I'm not losing you, am I?
No, I'm just
long day.
Yeah, it's a long day.
Yeah, all right. Well,
it's like 6 a.m.
Well, we got a few more, and then we'll call it a show here. All right, number 4, and this one is just ludicrous. You would think that he was anybody but who he was. Andre the Giant is the Giant Machine in the mid 80s. So the Machines were a tag team. It was Bill Eadie of Axe and Demolition, Blackjack Mulligan as I think he was Super Machine, I forget, and then they had Giant Machine, which was Andre, who was clearly a head taller than both of them. and he's wearing the same. He's wearing Andre's gear, for God's sakes. He got the one strap singlet on.
Yeah.
And trying to put one over on the brain. So Bobby just spent months trying to prove that he was Andre, although it shouldn't have been that hard. And in the machines, I could have done a whole section on the machines because they also did Hulk Machine, which was just Hogan with his yellow T-shirt and the mask on. Piper Machine, Animal Machine, which was George Animal Steel. So it just made it a huge, just a gimmick for the baby faces on live events, which is ridiculous. And that's actually what led to Heenan got Andre's suspension lifted, and then that's when he joined up with Bobby and challenged Hogan. So it didn't last too long, but it was entertaining, if you ask me. All right, number 3, and I know I say ridiculous a lot in this list. I'm just going to leave this here.
Yeah, I was wondering when you were going to get the Black Scorpion.
This is in case of emergency break glass, because it wasn't supposed to be Flair. As I understand, it was supposed to be Al Perez, but he didn't want to do it. And so they just put the mask on Flair, had Ole dub the voice, and then they did the match at Starrcade with Sting. But the whole Black Scorpion character was ridiculous. It's just Jim Herd 101. Just take a ridiculous name, give him magical powers, and then in the end, he's Ric Flair. Just makes no sense. Because who wants to see Sting versus Flair on a pay-per-view without?
Did Jim Herd do the RoboCop fiasco too? Was that under him?
That I believe it was.
And
that was in the 90s, yeah.
Also, the one where the guy, I can't think, I'm getting tired, fell through on his. You dressed up as him for Halloween.
No, Shockmaster.
Yeah, Shockmaster.
No, that was a Dusty call. That wasn't Herd.
Oh, that was a bad call.
It would have been fine, but they rehearsed it before the show. And it went perfect. It went through the wall. When the stagehands rebuilt the wall, they put a crossbeam across the bottom, like for support, and nobody told Fred Ottman. So when he goes through the wall, he catches his feet on the crossbar, and that's what sends him ass over tea kettle and makes for just mean gold in the wrestling business. It's just poor Shockmaster, but it made for the greatest Halloween costume I've ever done.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, when I go to the Squared Circle Expo, I'm debating bringing that for the wrestler look-alike contest because I might have a shot.
Yeah.
My wife says do it. So, and if I win, I get VIP passes for the next expo. So that's something to be for. The only problem is I got to figure out how to do because they make you do a promo. So I need to figure out how to get the Ole voice because I can't just use my voice. It sounds wrong.
Yeah.
So I'd have to maybe I'll talk to Dustin and see if we can.
Two different contests. One is the lookalike contest, and the other is the promo cutting contest.
Oh, I don't remember.
I think it's 2 separate things.
It might be, but we'll see. Okay, so we're going to move on here to our number 2, and the top 2 should be obvious. It's just a question of in what order. And like I said, I'm gonna sit back. I'm gonna hit the button. Boom. Mr. America.
Yeah.
It just why? I mean, I remember when they had the little promos saying Mr. America is coming, and I didn't know who it was gonna. I didn't know it was gonna be Hogan under a mask. I thought it was like an actual new character. Like I thought it was like somebody who like doing a Luger style thing. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then what do you know? Here comes the Hulkster brother with his blue Captain America mask on and running around with Zach Gowen and making a monkey out of Vince McMahon. So that's what they do. But I mean, I don't know. Can you see any resemblance between this picture and the insert?
When you look them side by side, there's a slight. Maybe they're cousins.
Maybe it's Beefcake's brother or something. Eddie Boulder. The only way they could have made it more obvious is if they would have, instead of a Mr. America shirt, remember the old American Made shirt from the 80s?
Yeah.
Have them do that and come out to Hogan's WCW music.
Yeah.
Which there is a mashup on YouTube of Real American and American Made, the WCW song together, and it goes together shockingly well. Of course, Jimmy Hart wrote American Made. I think he was like I can't do Real American, baby, so I'm gonna make you something as close as I can.
Oh, come on, Hulkster.
Do you have any idea how confused I was the first time I saw Jimmy Hart managing Hulk Hogan like in a match in like '93? Because I didn't watch the pay-per-views when they happened, and all of a sudden I put WrestleMania 9 on, and here comes Jimmy Hart. I'm like, what the hell is this? Just
yeah, I was confused when he after a while when he had anybody, because Jimmy would just come out and have his megaphone, but he never really tripped anybody or did anything. He was just kind of there, kind of like Elizabeth. She would just stand there.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand. Why are you here?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, Elizabeth was there for Randy to hide behind.
Yeah.
Jimmy was just there.
Yeah.
He was there to yell at referees with the megaphone. After 1989, he didn't really do much as far as getting involved in matches.
He was just over with all the boys. So.
Oh, everybody loves Jimmy. He's one of the guys I'd love to meet someday. I had a close call with him in like '07. I was at a Fan Access in Schaumburg. It was before WrestleMania, and they had a WWE experience thing at the mall up there. And Jimmy and Hillbilly Jim were there, just kind of working. Like Hillbilly Jim was just working backstage, just walking through the crowd in street clothes. And then Jimmy, I think, was doing meet and greets, but I didn't get a chance to meet him or greet him. So someday, because I've got a picture of me with Bret Hart on my wall. I'd love to put a picture with Jimmy nearby. So, but that's just me. All right, so we've done the first 9. I'm going to give you, well, I'm not going to make you guess, but I'll bet you have an idea of who number 1 is.
I was thinking the Black Scorpion may have been, but if it's not that, or and it's not Shockmaster, then I don't know. Oh yeah, the Midnight Rider.
Yes, he used that in Florida, and then he used it again in the NWA. I remember the one from Crockett more because that was in like '88. It was after I think he hit Jim Crockett with a bat or something on accident and got suspended. He was fighting the Horsemen, and then when Barry joined the Horsemen, then Dusty went into the locker room with the mask on. He was still playing up the gimmick, and then the Horsemen beat him up, and Wyndham took his mask, and then there's this really, I'm not going to really say iconic, but there's this picture online from the end of, it was either a Clash or Worldwide or something, where the Horsemen are driving off in the limo, and it stops, and the window rolls down, and Barry holds up the mask out the window, and then he puts up the 4 fingers next to it, and they made a picture out of that and put it out there, and it's kind of I think it's awesome. I think it's cool. I want to get a poster made of that. But then shortly after that, he came back as Dusty, and then had his run with Wyndham. But yeah, Midnight Rider is probably also my favorite of these, and not just because I love Dusty. So, it kind of makes sense with Dusty being our inductee this episode for the Hall of Fame for the Midnight Rider to be number 1. So, before we say goodbye, Gary, I want to get some business out of the way. Once again, ProWrestlingTees.com/JTRPod. You saw the new shirts up there. There it is again. But this isn't all we have. We got plenty of stuff on there. So if you go there, see what we have, like what you see, and pick something up, we would appreciate it. So follow us on Twitter at JTRPod, Instagram at Jumping the Rail. This coming Thursday at 5 p.m., the 01 Shootout, myself and Menders are going to be talking with either the full group or a subset of the Lowlifes going into how the Lowlifes to Christmas show this coming Saturday. So check that out on YouTube on the JTR Podcast Network channel. And also, I want to give a shout out real quick. you guys remember Marco, our producer, for the first year plus of the show. And like I said, we went to his house over the weekend for the Christmas party, and Narge was there, so it was cool hanging out. And Marco gave me this really cool thing. He's got this machine in his house. It's like I don't know if it's a laser printer or what, but he got some coasters made up with, and I never know where to point, but he got me some.
Hold on.
There we go. I got it. We got
There you
some dumping the rail coasters made for me, which look really cool. So thanks to Marco for that. And yeah, so and plus they're durable. They're not like your run of the mill like thin plastic coasters. These are you can hear that's ceramic, so that's going to last me a while. So thanks to Marco for that. Gary, you have anything you want to add before we say goodbye?
Sometime in the new year, we're going to start with our guest every other show or something like that.
Yes.
And then once we get a time for that, we'll let you all know. And then, like Mark was saying, we may have a different location and producer at some point, hopefully in the new year. So just be on the lookout for that. And then once we get all that rolling, we'll get.
And also, yeah, so like you're saying, we'll do that Chicago, like a Chicago indie series, like at the start of the new year. Next episode on the 27th will be the annual year in review episode. If you remember last year, it went about 3 hours long. We don't want that to happen this year. So
No.
I think we had 20 something subjects to talk about during that show. I'm going to cut that maybe in half and just pick the good ones.
Yes.
I'll get Gary a list of those, get him to figure out what he has to say about that. And we're looking at having one, possibly two guests on that episode to help us out. I just have to make sure that they're down for that. So keep an eye on our Facebook page, and we will keep you posted on that. So other than that, Gary, I don't have a whole lot else. So what do you say we put a pin in this one, and we'll be back in 2 weeks? Sound good?
Yep.
All right. For the Italian Stallion, Gary Vasilio, this is Mark Reb, reminding you all life is hard, so work stiff. See you later.